I think we can all agree that the Game Boy Advance was one of our childhood's most beloved gaming devices. I mean, Nintendo just always seemed to have a way of grabbing our attention and holding it. I mean, especially at a time when we didn't have tablets or smartphones or really the gaming devices that we have today. I remember car rides home when you're playing with just the smallest amount of light from the streetlights as it passes you because you just really wanted to get to the next level or level up your Pokemon or do some cool, fun adventure stuff with Zelda games. It was an incredible experience. The point being is that mobile gaming has really come a long way, so why not some of our handhelds? There's just something different about using your original hardware nowadays, especially when there's so many other opportunities to get your nostalgic fix. This is my Game Boy Advance, and this little guy has been on quite a journey. I actually loaned this out to a friend of mine about 7 years ago. He was traveling up and down the West Coast, living out of his van, and I thought, why not give this to him? You don't need Wi-Fi or charging or anything. All you need is batteries, and I just thought it was a fun, unique thing. I haven't seen him in years and years and years, and he pulls up, and he's like, I have this for you. Thank you so much for loaning it out. So I figured, let's give this thing an upgrade. If you all enjoy videos like this, it would really mean a lot to me if you went and hit that big red button down below and subscribe to the channel, and maybe hit that like button while you're at it. It really does help the channel grow. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we have the Game Boy Advance. It is pretty beat up, as you can see, definitely in need of some updates. The first thing that you're going to grab is a screwdriver set. I use the iFixit Mori driver set. It has all of the individual bits that you will need for this project. Next up, our Funny Playing Game Boy Advance shell, the body. Then we also have the buttons, also from Funny Playing. And lastly, we do have our Funny Playing IPS backlit screen, very crucial, and probably the biggest upgrade, the glass screen protector to protect over the top of that. All right, so let's get into it. We're first going to just turn this over. And as you can see, there are a bunch of screws here that we will need to remove. There are 6 in total. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I've actually already removed a couple of these, or they were missing already, but we're just going to speed up this whole process for us. You will need this tiny little triangular bit from the set, which is why I said the iFixit is a great set to use. And then there is one tiny little Phillips screw underneath the batteries. So you will have to remove the batteries. And as you can see right here, if I can actually focus this, is a tiny little Phillips screw. So we'll go ahead and remove that too. From here, actually, you will just be able to pop off the back. If all of the screws are removed, you can just kind of set that aside for right now. Then there are going to be 2 more Phillips screws. Go ahead and remove those. This actually secures the board to the front panel. Go ahead and screw. Get those off. Then you'll actually need to unsecure this ribbon cable. There's these little 2 hooks. I just used another bit to take these off. You want to kind of be careful here, just in case you do end up using the ribbon cable in the future.
Once you tear these, they are no good and you have to completely replace them. So just be a little careful if you are planning on saving those. Once that ribbon cable is removed, then you can just take this whole thing off. This will be the perfect opportunity to kind of inspect and see if there's any corrosion that you can clean up. That speaker is absolutely disgusting, but just kind of check out your board just to make sure. You can set that off on the side for now if you need to clean it. Lastly, you will need to take these little silicone pads. I totally forgot on that last shot there is the start and select button. So don't forget those. Those are 2 silicone pads. I go back here and grab them. There it is. You'll need to save those for later. Next up is the adhesion pad that you'll use to stick the IPS screen to. Comes on this little handy sheet, little outline there, and it will go right around that frame. You can kind of tell there's some small little lips in there, so just be aware of that when you're installing it. Next, we'll actually go ahead and adhere the back of the ribbon cable to the back of the screen. It just kind of can flop around a little bit. I actually ended up using the extra adhesion pad that they gave us there. Just kind of cut that off on the side. You'll see here in a moment that I stick it to the back and get everything kind of squared away so it just doesn't kind of flop around when we're actually installing everything. And there you go. Now it is all properly secured and ready to be installed onto your Game Boy. All right, so now we're just going to be able to stick this on here. Hold on, peel that. Oh, so satisfying when you do that. Funny Playing shells actually already have everything cut out perfectly. You used to have to have a little adapter tool and cut some stuff off, but if you do buy the Funny Playing shells, just know that everything kind of fits together very securely and perfectly, making these mods just that much simpler for you to do. Alright, now we are on to the buttons. I struggled a little bit here trying to get everything secured in place. Didn't really look like I knew what I was doing, but again, this is one of my very first mods that I've ever done. Every piece just kind of has a unique spot, obviously. It just seemed like it wouldn't be, but once we figured it all out, it was fairly easy going in there. Put the start and select button down there. And the triggers just kind of kept falling out on me, so don't be worried if they just keep falling. Next, we'll just go ahead and put in all of these little silicone pads. Something that I did mess up on was I did not think about the color, and the start and select, because they go all the way through, weren't matching when I originally got this. I will post a link down below of where I ended up getting more silicone pads to match the all-white aesthetic that I was going for. Now we can go ahead, put that board right back in there. Again, just could not get these little trigger buttons to want to stay put on it, but don't worry if you're having trouble with that. Grab your screws and go ahead and start screwing everything back in. So again, we have our 2 Phillips screws here that secure the board in. Then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to snap that ribbon cable back in, super simple, and then just secure it in place with those 2 side buttons, securers, whatever you really want to call them, I'm not sure. Once you have everything in place, you can go ahead and pop that back shell on. This is going to actually make all of those triggers hold in place for you. I did struggle just a little bit there. Something to note is that the power switch can actually not line up properly with the actual button on the board, so just make sure you have that properly secured before you go ahead and reattach all of the other screws. Great thing again about the Funny Playing shell is that it actually came with brand new screws. The ones on my old Game Boy, being so old, super corroded, just kind of grody. I think I was actually missing a couple. but everything worked out perfectly. And obviously, don't forget about that last little Phillips screw. I always forget about it. Okay, so the very last step here is going to be putting that glass screen protector on. I didn't really have too much trouble, but once it's down, it is pretty much down, and you will have to disassemble the entirety of it. What I would recommend is try not to get your fingerprints on it. I ended up scrubbing off a little bit there with a microfiber cloth, but then just making sure everything lines up perfectly. I went to go ahead and, made sure there were no smudges on there, and that's about all it is. Lastly, I went ahead and got a USB-C rechargeable battery pack. Biggest thing is that it doesn't quite fit, so you will actually have to remove this. Again, funny playing shells make it super easy. It just pops right out. No other cutting required. If you do use an older shell or just a used shell, you might have to do some cutting to get the rechargeable battery pack to fit. So just kind of be aware when you're going ahead and doing this, if that's the route you want to go. You definitely don't have to go ahead and do that, but it is just a nice touch to bring it into 2022. This little red and black cord did give me some trouble when trying to fit everything in here. It just didn't quite want to fit. You just have to finagle it a little bit. Once you do, the back shell actually pops right on perfectly. And there you have it. This is the finished product. I did add a couple beautiful translucent stickers on the back, but I actually love how this ended up turning out. Just know that there are plenty more mods that you can do for something like this if you so choose.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the channel. So if you do have a minute, I would love it if you hit that like button and made sure to subscribe. I'll be trying to upload more videos regularly going forward. And if you do get another moment, why don't you head over to the Game Pack Podcast on YouTube. It is a video game podcast that me and 3 other friends host on a weekly basis. We are putting out a ton of new content, and we would really appreciate your support. In any case, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.